Okay, so I just share with y'all the event I saw, and I was speaking of previously that you could tell the difference that the pay scale from has changed a lot from last year to this year. Because when you go through the rides, it's sometimes very difficult to find one that makes sense to do. I was downtown today and I saw a trip offer on Uber for, I want to say somewhere like $74 to go to East Lansing. I didn't take it because I wasn't looking to drive that far at like 4 in the afternoon. So then a few minutes later, I see a ride offering for $50 to go to East Lansing. I'm like, come on now, Uber. If I didn't take it at 74 and now you offering it to me at 50, why would I take it now? So
Exactly.
it just kind of, highlights the games that are being played. I saw so many. I don't know if y'all have experienced this before. I saw so many $3.88 rides today. Have y'all seen
Yeah,
those rides before come through?
I've seen.
I've seen those, and I don't take them.
Hmm.
I refuse to take them. There's a bunch of drivers out there apparently that's taking them, but when it's under $4, I don't do it.
Yeah, they tried to send me. I was in Ann Arbor earlier today. They tried to send me to. They tried to send me to Lansing for like $39. It's over an hour ride. Oh yeah, I'm gonna let y'all talk though. I got my passenger.
Okay.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, but I think with the government shutdown going on, it's a lot more drivers that are driving to supplement the money that they're not getting from that paycheck because of the government shutdown. So we're gonna see a lot more cheaper rides. You know what I mean, P?
Yeah, and that really hurts us because it's kind of like when you at the casino and you playing cards or whatever, you depend on the other people at the table to play correctly. And the same thing applies to us in the streets. Inevitably, people got to turn down those rides. And if we getting people who just trying to look for survival, then that mindset is I'm gonna take everything I can get, which helps the company, helps Uber, Lyft, but doesn't really help us at all.
Exactly. They take anything that come through, and that drives the race to the bottom all the time. So whenever the government opens back, it's gonna get worse because the longer it stays closed, it's gonna get worse. But when the government opens back up, it's not gonna be immediate
Hmm.
because it's still gonna be drivers out here saying, I don't know when I'm gonna get this paycheck. They might have to pay retro, but at the same time, I still need to keep the lights on. I still need to pay my car note. I still need to pay my car insurance, etc. And so that is affecting what we do. But the $3.88 is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
yeah. But the messed up part about it, when you analyze it deeper, is that $3.88 is what we getting paid. Still, the the passenger is paying more for that ride. And one of the other things that I had a passenger talk to me about a couple of days ago was the fact that Uber is getting it both ways. They taking 65% from us and charging the passenger even more. So then that puts us in a position when if we're depending on tips throughout our day, we can't get tips because the customer, we done maxed them out on the fare up front.
All facts, all facts. They do not discount the passengers' ride to supplement the driver's pay. They still pimp them big time money wise to get them to where they're going, and we get a third, if that, of that. And so that's why it's so important to know. Like, if you're an experienced driver, you got to know that from 8 Mile and Telegraph to the airport used to pay $35, $40. Now it pays $15. And so what you need to decide is, okay, is this passenger going to Delta? Because if they're going to Delta, it's a 50, well, it might be like a 60 to 70% chance that it's a corporate account and they will tip you. And
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, if you at the airport, you might get priority if your rating is above a certain level to get the first chance to getting somebody out of the airport going back to somewhere you go. So that is a plus. But if they're going to Southwest, they're going to Spirit or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
me personally, I'm pausing. I'm like, I'm probably not going to take them. I'm probably not going to take them to the airport because me driving from 8 Mile Telegraph area all the way to the airport for $16, $17 ain't worth it because of what airline they flying on. And we learn these things as a result of being an experienced driver. And you go, okay, if I'm gonna take them from here to the airport, that's gonna take me 35, 40 minutes for $16, $17. Hell, I could make that just by staying in my area. And this is very true. So you got to understand those things as a driver. A lot of drivers don't know, and this is why they go ahead and take those routes. And Uber and Lyft continue to pay those same fares, $15 to the driver, but they pimp the passenger 45, $50 easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think what the driver, I mean, what the passenger is seeing as far as requests, it's pretty steady. They not seeing no cheap rides. The cheap ride part is only what we as the driver are seeing on a day by day basis. So, yeah, that's one of the things that we have to really be mindful of. But I want to transition and just ask you, uh, how do you feel, or what part does building rapport with that passenger, how does that affect the tips that you think that you've seen? Because I know for myself, I had a passenger today. I didn't hardly talk to her at all, and she still tipped. And I'm usually one to always be focused on, okay, you got to build rapport with them, because you got to try to connect with them to give or build a reason for them to tip you. So, Mr. R, what have you seen with regards to that?
So it depends. Like really, if they're going to Delta, um, if they're a talkative person, because I'm a talkative person, I can talk about any and everything, right?
Right.
So if they're a talkative person, then I'm gonna chop it up and talk, right? And the tip, like, listen, on Uber, not on Lyft, but on Uber, the tips are crazy going to the airport. Even if they're not going to the airports, the tips are fairly decent. They do that on a regular. I can do screenshot after screenshot and show you that I average pretty decent on tips. So I don't think that it's a matter of you doing the report thing. It's a matter of one, the airline that you're going to, two, the passenger you normally using a corporate account, and three, Uber reminding them to tip, reminding them to tip. And I say that because a Lyft passengers got upset about this information that Lyft put out of how often this passenger tips. And it's really a big determination on whether or not the passenger is picked up by the driver. And they had a big stink about this last week about how the passengers didn't like how Lyft would show this passenger tips 20%, 20%, 30%, 40% of the time they take rides. And so drivers look at that and say, oh, this passenger don't tip at all. I'm not taking them. So that is a determining factor on whether or not the driver accepts the ride or not because of the passenger not tipping. That's very important. And I think that Lyft doing that, they're probably going to scale it back and say, no, we're not going to put this information out there anymore because I see a lot of our passengers are upset about that. And since they're upset about it, we probably should have put this information out there because a lot of our passengers are not being picked up and they complaining about it because they don't tip. And our Lyft drivers realize, oh, this person don't tip. I ain't picking them up. I'm not taking them, right? But
Hmm.
when you look at the Uber passenger, even though they lied early on and said the tips were in the fare, they used to tell their passengers that, hey, you don't have to tip because the tip is already in there. And a lot of Uber passengers were not tipping, which was very untrue. They have come and surpassed what the what the Lyft passengers do. I think the Lyft passengers are a lot cheaper than the Uber passenger. Uber passengers do far more with tipping, regardless of whether they're going to the airport or not. They can be going local, whatever. They tip, and
Hmm.
I do believe, P, that the conversation you have with them helps in that tip. Like you can talk about whatever it is, and they're gonna tip. I just think that from evidence, from proof that they do tip. Seriously, what's your
Yeah.
thought on it?
No, I kind of agree. I kind of feel like it's so many variables that go into every situation. I think there are certain groups of people that I figure they ain't gonna tip, and majority of the times you be pretty much on the spot. But then you also have the time to think, or you also have the points where you look and you say, well, even though I didn't think they were going to tip me, they still did. So it's kind of goes up in the air. I think some people truly want to be left alone and want you to take them from point A to point B, no matter where it is. And I think some people want to talk. So we really got to gauge it situation by situation. As far as how we want to deal with our clients. So I think we got to try a little bit of everything to give ourselves a better shot. Now I will say, with my experiences on Lyft historically the passengers on there just did not tip well, and I think maybe it's due to the fact that you're dealing with a different level of clientele on Lyft. I think Uber, we dealing with, like, to your point, more business travelers. We dealing with people who used to be saying, "Hey, I fly 3 times a month. I'm turning in an expense report. I know my company's gonna let me tip," and they just do it. It's just a way of life. Whereas dealing with, like, maybe the local person who occasionally uses Lyft or uses it because their car just broke down and they just got just enough money just to pay for the ride itself.
True, very, very valid point. Um, it's not that the drivers expect a tip. It's always a plus that we get the tip.
Right.
We don't assume that any ride we picking up that, oh man, they gonna tip or not. That's not the point. We when we get a tip, it's a surprise. But I'll tell you this from my experience: when somebody says, "I'm gonna take care of you in the app," they usually lie. They don't. "I'm gonna tip you in the app." They don't. They don't. And we know this from experience. If you gonna tip, you ain't gotta say nothing. Just do the tip.
Right.
If you say that we're gonna take care of you or I'm gonna give you 5 stars, that's a lie. We gonna give you 1 star. Guarantee you. Because we know you're lying, right?
Hmm.
It's just flat out from experience. So just if you plan on tipping, great. We welcome it. If you don't say a word about what you're going to do because chances are your rating is going to fall down. And here's the deal: I set my rating every day to not accept anything less than a 4.8. And some people think that's high. I think that's just perfect because any time you get a passenger that's below the 4.8, that many drivers can't be wrong about that passenger. For one, they're entitled or it's got some type of situation or whatever. I don't want to deal with them. So I don't suffer. And listen, I get a ton of ride requests coming through me that are 4.8 and above. But if you fall below that, you don't even see me at all because it, anytime somebody rating you and your rating is going lower than a 4.8, I've seen passengers with ratings in the threes. And I'm like, how are they still on the platform to be passengers? But I get it because the companies, Lyft and Uber, want the money and they'll just take a chance and get that passenger, whatever. But me personally, I don't want that experience because it's important to me. I want you to have a great ride. I want to have a great ride. And what I also noticed is anybody who works in the service industry, if you are a bartender, if you are a server, those type of people, when they tip, it's a karma thing. It's a karma thing. They tip because they want to receive tips. When those people work in those industries and they don't tip, it means that they don't understand the reciprocal of tipping. And that's how their life is. I had a person just recently